A warm welcome to the participants of Pallikudam Global Connect 5. Every week in this event, we explore one theme related to teaching, parenting, learning, technology, health, and socio-emotional issues. I'm glad to inform you that this weekly event is now getting wide acceptance from our stakeholders as they are addressed by experts from chosen areas. We all grew up with prejudices, and there are many stereotypes associated with genders. Parents may say boys are boys and girls are girls. We have a common practice of attributing the color pink to girls, considering it as feminine. Girls are told to play only with dolls, while boys get fast-moving toys such as cars or buses or even revolvers as gifts. Gender stereotypes can create barriers for the personal, social, and economic development of both the sexes. Today, we are indeed fortunate to have Ms. Anupama Ramachandra, Principal of DPS Electronic City, Bengaluru, to talk to us on the topic of gender sensitivity at home and school. She is also a US Fulbright Scholar and a leading writer and speaker on educational issues. I extend a warm welcome to Anupama ma'am and invite her to start the presentation. I request all participants to mute your audio and raise questions in the chat box or wait till the presentation is over for the question and answer session. This event is also being streamed live on YouTube. Participants may also use the comments box to raise questions. Now over to Anupama ma'am.
A very, very good evening, and thank you so much, NICE and Pallikudam Connect 5, for having me here this evening to talk on this very, very sensitive subject. So, NICE, you have already set the tempo for my presentation or talk this evening by starting off how we are assigned roles based on our sex, whether we are males or whether we are females. So I would just like to take, a minute to quote an example. This is not something that we have made up. This is something that actually really happened. In one of our fifth grade, one of the boys, he stopped his social science teacher who was speaking about how social reformers had to fight their way to create more civil liberties for women during the pre-independence times, and how many organizations are still continuing to fight for women, and it is so difficult for women even to go out to work, is what she said. Immediately, he raised a concern, and it was a very innocent, genuine concern. He said, "But ma'am, isn't it my mother's duty to stay at home and take care of all of us? Why should she go to work when my father is already doing it and he's supposed to do that? Why should my mother go out to work?" So this is one example. And, moving on to a slightly higher age group again. Now, this is something that the teacher did when, in most of the schools that I worked, we have a habit of changing a seating arrangement now and then, depending on the activity. So on one such occasion when we had to change the seating arrangement, the teacher, she told all the girls that, girls, please move out till the boys arrange the class because it is their job to do that. Right? So I just want all of you present here, whether you're teachers or whether you're parents, just to take a few seconds, to just jog your memory whether, we as adults, because the second example I gave you is not what children said, it is what an adult said, where she said, all the girls move out, let the boys move the heavy desks. It's not your job. So, we come across many such conversations, many such, happenings around us, but what we do is we just take it in our stride and we just move on in life, right? Many of us do not want to pause there and think about it or even do anything about it. So today, I'm going to spend a few minutes with all of you just discussing my perspective on this, And, I just want to start off with a disclaimer that what I'm saying is not the absolute truth. This is just my view on this. And I have taken into account, my journey as a teacher this far, and of course, as a parent, and I've seen, so many families and relatives, and, so this is just a collective observation of mine, which I want to share with you. So, quickly, I would like to just start my presentation for you. So just give me a minute while I just start off. Nicey, is the presentation visible?
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So, the topic itself is very sensitive because we are talking about gender bias at home and at school. The first thing that all of us would be saying is that, no, it's not happening in our school. It's not happening in our homes. Well, let us see as we progress in our conversation. So, the word gender, this is not, rocket science, but then we need to know what is the exact meaning of the word gender, and is it different from the word sex? Because in application, when we are filling, they write name and then sex, then we have to say male, female, and other, right? So let us just look at the definition of the word gender. So gender, it is different from a sex, and today we are talking about gender sensitivity. So gender sensitivity as defined in Wikipedia is nothing but the process by which people are made aware of how gender plays a role in life through their treatment of others. So this has got something to do with, the way people are treated because of their sex, whether they are males, whether they are females, or they belong to another, gender. So how they are treated is what gender sensitivity is all about. And there is a difference between sex and gender. So this is, I have got it from a source on the internet. I have mentioned the source below. So I would like all of you to take a minute to know the difference between sex and gender. So, sex is something that is very biological or physiological in nature, and it is mainly a classification based on their reproductive organs. So we all know the difference between males and females. So it is something that is assigned to us at birth, depending on our reproductive structures. On the other hand, gender refers to something very social. It has a cultural connotation, and it also focuses a lot on how a certain human being behaves or is emotion, the temperament emotionally between men and women is all what gender is about. And sex, we all know, has two main categories, male and female. And now we know that there is also a third sex also. The sexes are two, but the genders, they can be more also. So the main categories of gender are masculine and feminine. It is determined or inherited by birth, which is sex, whereas gender is influenced by many factors, which can be either social, cultural, ethnic, the kind of area that we live in, the religion that we follow. So everything has a role to play in the gender bias that we're going to talk about. Generally, sex role cannot be changed by time and culture. Only there's also an example that they've given that only women can give birth to children and men can impregnate. Whereas gender is flexible term and its role can be changed by time and culture. Women can perform men's role. We all know, right, in many cases where an active man is absent in our lives, it is always a woman who rises up to the occasion and performs all the role that men have to do. Like, for example, we have all read in some families, recently, I think Mandira Bedi's husband passed away, may his soul rest in peace. So she only did the last rites of her husband while, she said her children were too young and she did not want to emotionally burden them with all these rites. So she only performed the last rites of her husband. So this is something that is done by males generally in most communities. So women can perform men's role. Men can also perform women's roles. In many cases, sometimes there are children who lose mothers very early on. So it is their fathers who perform the role of their the mother, the assigned role of the mother of taking care, cooking for them, ironing their clothes or whatever it is. So the roles of the genders are interchangeable, right? And the last difference is sex is created by the reproductive needs, that is biological feature, whereas gender discriminations are created by social norms. So the word social norm is something that we have to keep in mind whenever we are discussing gender bias. So when we ask ourselves the question, or when we ask somebody else, like for example, suppose I'm looking for a seat for my child in some school, and I go to the school and I ask the head of the institution that, are you gender sensitive in the ways you're educating your children? Everybody will claim and say, a thumbs up, yes, of course, we are doing it, and we are so sensitive towards both the genders. Even as parents also, we always like to claim that we are very, very sensitive while we are raising our sons and our daughters. Now, the question is that the truth? Are we doing it? Are we doing it consciously? Are we mindful of this in every walk of life? Well, let us discuss just that. Now, as Nicey said, where does this gender bias start? It starts at home. And are we doing this purposely? Not necessarily. Sometimes we do it unconsciously. Sometimes we don't know better. Sometimes we have the most noble of intentions where we want our daughters to look cute in pink and we want our sons to look very, very handsome in blue. Well, I don't know how many of you have read the history of this pink and blue, but I did, because there are so many videos on WhatsApp, on Facebook, where people are announcing their pregnancy, when they want to break the news to their other children or to other people in their family. They always have something very, very creative where, they have something that bursts open and then, pink balloons just come out, blue confetti just comes out. Now there are cakes, there are baby showers which are happening, where we cut the cake, and if anything blue pops out, then everybody knows it's going to be a boy. If anything pink pops out, they know it's going to be a girl. Well, history says that originally this was not the colors assigned to boys and girls. It was the other way around. Blue was assigned to the girls and pink was assigned to the boys. But a little later, they realized that pink was somewhat closer to red, which is supposed to be the color of love. So they said that no, pink cannot be associated with boys. I think now we have to change it. And a little later, they assigned pink to girls and blue to boys. Originally, it was not so. Now, when we do this, what happens? Like you may say that, so what? What is a big deal if we are assigning colors to babies? And, so that is where the gender bias begins. We are actually pre-assigning some kind of, constraint on the child, where we are saying, and even without the child asking or us asking the child, what is your favorite color? If we have the means, we decorate the nursery with these colors also. If you're going to have a daughter, we have everything in pink, the cradle liner, the walls, everything is pink, and it is blue if it's a boy. So how do we know whether our daughters like pink and our sons like blue? We don't ask them, but we kind of force them to believe that these are colors for your gender. Many times when, of course, due to the pandemic, I'm not getting to meet the children personally, but whenever I would have interaction with children, I would always ask out of curiosity the little ones, what is your favorite color? And out of 100 children, I'm not exaggerating, at least 95 of them, if they're girls, they say pink, and if they're boys, they say blue. And I always like to ask them, but don't you like blue? They say, no, that is boys' color. We are not supposed to like that. So, it begins here where we are forcing children to behave to something that is accepted in the society. So this is a preconceived notion, right? What will happen if you paint your daughter's nursery blue? Nothing is going to happen, right? But then we don't do it because the society kind of demands that it has to be pink and it has to be blue. So this is where it all begins. And the criticality of the question of whether you are practicing gender sensitivity is, of course, why should you practice it? More importantly, how are you doing it? So, right now we know there is a lot of focus on how we do things, right? That is what makes it creative. That is what all design thinking is about. Are we thinking out of the box? So even in this issue, it is very, very necessary for us to think of how we are actually sensitizing our near and dear ones about these different genders. So we all know that in biology, there is a symbol which is assigned to men or males and to women or females. So what is the basis of this? This is also based on planets. And we all know that Mars is assigned to men and Venus is assigned to women. Why was it like that? Because they thought that the Mars, the Roman god of war is, represented by Mars. And for Venus, it is the Roman goddess of love called Aphrodite. So they took it for granted that it was the women whose job to love people, create a loving home, and it was the men's job to go out for war. So this war can be either to earn a livelihood, to kill animals for food, or even to go for the actual war. So this is how these symbols were assigned. And the way they have been designed also, the male symbol, which is like a circle with an arrow on top, that stands actually for a shield and the spear of Mars, because I told you it talks about going to war. And for the female, what did they assign? They assign Aphrodite's hand mirror. So you see, here also there is bias because they expect the women to only be bothered about how she looks with a mirror, and the man will take care of everything outside of the home. So this is something that has been carrying on from times immemorial. But for me, what is more important is it still continuing today is what we need to talk about, because we cannot change our past, right? But what we can change, that one chance that we have got is to change our future by thinking about it in the present. So please think about these colors and symbols which are assigned to us. Now, many times in our conversation, I just want you to think and put it in the chat box also. These statements, to whom do we generally use this? Is it for our sons or is it for our daughter? So the first one, you should not go out after it's dark. So who do we use this for? The statement? Please put it in the chat box. I see. Can you?
Yes. We have got responses. Most of them have said daughters or girls.
Yes, absolutely. I completely agree with you, because this is what my parents said to me also. You should never go out after it's dark. I am so old now. Even now, my mother will always say, like, if I leave home and I'm going somewhere, she always calls up and asks, have you reached home safely? Even today, I don't think she does that for my brothers. Now, the next one, do not spend too much time on kitchen or household chores. Generally, do we tell this to our sons or do we tell this to our daughters?
Yeah, we've got responses. Sons or boys?
Sons or boys, right? Correct. So I'm glad all of you are honest. This dress is too revealing. Who do we tell this to?
We've got responses, girls and daughters.
Girls, yeah. So, this is something very, very hurtful also because, in many instances where girls were molested, they were raped, there were some insensitive politicians who went to the extent of saying that if girls are taught to dress conservatively, they will not be raped. How insensitive can a human being get that they are, there were some people who said that, yeah, those girls were actually inviting men to do this to them. So this is something that all of us need to give a serious thought about. The next one, of course, this profession is not suited for boys or girls. We always say that. Like I can give you an example. We are all teachers, right? More than 92 or 93% of the teachers are women. You tell me, in which book is it written that men are not good teachers? In fact, I remember having excellent male teachers, right? So, but we do not have many men who take it up because somehow it is preconceived that teaching is for women. They are more loving, they're more caring. No, we do have men or male teachers who are excellent teachers. Now, the next statement, don't be a sissy. Who do we tell this to?
We're getting comments as boys, ma'am.
Boys, right? Yeah. So whenever we see a boy who's afraid of doing something, who cries when he gets hurt, I don't want to do this, mama. Don't be a sissy. Come on, you're a boy. Be brave and do this, right? And the other one also, don't be a tomboy. That is the other statement which we make to girls. If there's a girl who's outgoing, who does not like to do anything at home and has an inclination to do things outside of the home, we always say, don't be a tomboy. So these are all statements that we make because we have these preconceived ideas in our head. Boys are supposed to do this, girls are supposed to do this. So we want to raise our children in such a way that they are socially acceptable. All of us suffer from this syndrome called log kya kahenge, right? We are so bothered about what people will say. No, people will laugh at us. What will people say if our son is always working in the kitchen, right? We also know many women, older women, who are very happy if their daughter is helped by the son-in-law, but they feel very bad if their son is helping the daughter-in-law, right? So this is something that all of us know. This is not something that is just shown in the serials. This is reality, because as a mother, I feel very bad to see my son doing all the household chores. Why? Because I've not made him do this when he was younger. Right? So this is something that we need to give a thought about. So now, what are these preconceived notions that we have for girls and boys? That depends from society to society, depends from the kind of ethnicity we belong to, the kind of religion we practice, whether we are in a progressive society, whether we are in a regressive society, whether we are in a conservative society, it depends on that. But largely, no matter which part of the world we are from, generally it is believed or expected that girls should always be very polite, they should be docile, they should be accommodating, and always the women always have to be giving. We should always put others before ourselves. If there is a girl or a woman who thinks about herself, they call her selfish, right? And they expect that the women should always be sacrificing. They should never think what they want, but they should always give up their personal preferences to keep others happy. That is when she'll become an ideal mother, Adarsh Nari, or whatever you call it, a good bahu. That is how it is. And what are the boys supposed to do? The boys are supposed to be strong always. They have to be very aggressive, take, complete control of the family. And so sad, they are expected to earn for the entire family also. And even if they're feeling very sad, they're not supposed to cry. In fact, in my mother tongue, there is a proverb which says, Alo gandasu hagu nago hengasana yavatu nambardu, they say, which means you should never believe a man who cries and a woman who laughs. I mean, how could they even think of this proverb? It just baffles me, because why aren't men allowed to cry? They are also human beings. They feel sad. They can be emotional. When they lose a loved one or they are really depressed about something, why can't they just cry and let it out? And why can't women be strong and not cry for everything? But why can't they be strong and say that I will take this in my stride? So these are questions for which I need all of you to think of answers, because the answers will give us the I wouldn't say a solution, but it will give us a roadmap as to how we can check this gender bias that we are all victims of. Now, are we talking about equality for genders? Not really. We are just discussing gender bias today, but gender bias leads to inequality amongst the genders. So we all know that like my elder son, he did his mechanical engineering, and he told that in his entire class, there was only one girl, which means that girls are discouraged from pursuing certain courses. Even architecture also, even civil engineering, I've heard that girls do not take it up because they are kind of dissuaded by saying that civil engineering, you have to be out in the sun. You are a woman. How can you stand out in the sun for so long? So don't take it up. So there are certain courses, like for example, nursing. Most of the nurses are women. Very few male nurses are there. So we are talking about this kind of bias, which leads to inequality in many spheres. Like Naisi said, this leads to social inequality, this leads to economic inequality, this leads to a lot of inequalities between genders. But the beginning is this gender bias that we are discussing today. So I just want to introduce another term to all of you, which is known as stereotype. Like I told you, right, that they believe that women should be teachers. They believe that men should not work in the kitchen. There are many men I know, I don't want to take their names for privacy purpose, but they are ready to help their wives, but not in front of other people. They will do up everything and they'll say that when guests are around, don't call me into the kitchen. You do it. After they all go again, I'll come and help you. Why is this? This is because of a stereotypical mindset. So what is the stereotype that we are talking about? It's nothing but this is something that it's a kind of an opinion or a judgment which is acceptable in the society. So the definition says that a stereotype is widely accepted judgment or bias about a person or group, even though it's overly simplified and not always accurate. Very, very important. Please underline this. Stereotypical behavior is not accurate behavior, but it is accepted by most part of the society. Stereotypes about gender can cause unequal and unfair treatment because of a person's gender. This is called as sexism. So let us just get these terms clear in our head. That's why I added it. And of course, the source from where I've taken it, I've quoted it there. And they say that there are 4 types of stereotypes. Honestly, just think to yourself that which kind of stereotype are we practicing? As parents, as teachers, are we practicing any kind of stereotype? Is something I want you to think of while I'm just referring to them. So the first one they say is a stereotype of personal traits. Men are supposed to stay at home, cook, while the men have to take care of going out and earning a livelihood. We all know many women have given up their very, very successful, lucrative jobs after they've had babies, because they did not question anyone. Some of them are doing it willingly and happily. There's nothing wrong in staying at home and taking care of our children. But the question is, there are many women who have been forced to give up their jobs because it is just accepted by the society that it is the women who have to stay back. I would just like to quote an example here. A parent in our school, who came to attend meetings, and I asked him, "Where is your wife?" He said, "Ma'am, she's gone to the US." Then I said, "Why is it?" He said, "Her company has sent her on a 1-year deputation. That was why she has gone." So then I said, "Wow, then who's taking care of the daughter?" He said, "Ma'am, I've called my parents and they are staying with me and we are managing." I said, "Lovely. It's so good that you sent your wife." He just told something that was so very touching. He said, "Ma'am, I'm sure my wife would have let me do the same if I had an opportunity. Since she got the opportunity, I let her go." So this is something which is very progressive in nature, and something that we have to think of, that our women or our girls encouraged to think like this, that it's okay, you pursue your dreams. Nobody is going to come in the way. And of course, there is the occupation stereotypes where, like I already discussed, there are some occupations which are considered to be for boys. There are some occupations which are meant for girls. So we somehow encourage them, or we try to push them into that by making them think that, no, you're a boy. I can give you another example here. We have something called hobby clubs in our school. So we have one hobby club called Cooking Without Fire. One year, I remember, all girls, there was only one boy. If my teachers are here, they'll know who I'm talking about. His parents did not stop him, even though we told that he is the only boy, he may feel uncomfortable. They said, "No, ma'am, if he's interested, let him pursue." And he was a path, he just broke all stereotypes. And the next year, we had so many boys who joined this hobby club. So that is one stereotype. And of course, the physical appearance also. Women are always expected to be Katrina Kaifs, then only she is considered beautiful. So this is something, where men are expected to be burly and muscular, and women are always supposed to look dainty and beautiful. So this is again from a source. This is a cartoon that I would like for you to see. The famous industrialist Anand Mahindra, he published this in his Twitter handle. This is by a Spanish illustrator, this cartoon. This went viral. This is a beautiful cartoon that I can write a book based on just this one picture. So, the men and women are all at the race at the starting point. The men have clear paths to reach their destination. What do the women have in their way? They have ironing, they have washing, they have cooking, they have clothesline. So this cartoon went viral because many of them felt that what is wrong in women doing household chores? I completely agree with this, and I would like to reiterate this. There's nothing wrong with men going out and working, women being at home and doing household chores, or the other way. But the question is, are they being allowed to do what gives them happiness? So this, cartoon draw a lot of flack because many of them said that you are stereotyping women, saying that all of them have to do this. It is not so. I know many homes, including mine, where the men have been very supportive, because of which we have been able to achieve what we can going out of the homes. So it is wrong on a part to say that women are always suppressed. It is not so. In many cases, there are men also who are suppressed because of many domestic issues. So let us not take it for granted that it is always the women who have to do this. So, I just wanted to bring this up because this had gone viral. And so how do we go about it now? Like I told, we have to start from home. And of course, we have to continue that in school. So at home, we have to be very conscious while we are assigning chores to our children, whether they are sons, whether they are daughters. We should not assign any role or any task to them based on whether it's a male child or a female child. So these are just pictures where, son can also wash dishes. Girls can do something that takes a lot of physical work. Men can take care of their children. Anybody can do anything, right? That is the whole point of discussion today, that nobody should be forced to do anything just because it's a boy or a girl. They should be given that privilege to choose what they like. And of course, we need to sensitize them that they have to learn everything, because today, learning how to cook, learning how to wash dishes, learning how to do your clothes, learning how to grow your own food, everything is life skill. So whether you're a boy or a girl, you need to do all this, because, today at least both my sons are not with us. They live abroad. They live on their own. What if I hadn't taught them how to cook? Would they be starving today? So they would be so handicapped had we not taught them these skills. So, as we are talking about gender bias, I would just like to draw your attention to houses or homes where we overdo it also. We become so conscious of gender bias that sometimes it has negative impacts also. So what is it? Firstly, there is something called hyperfemininity and hypermasculinity. What is that? We force our daughters, that you are supposed to do this. We always tell them, right? If you don't learn this, when you get married and go, your mother-in-law, your husband is going to question me and say, what have you taught your daughter? So in this pursuit, what we do, we force our daughters and sons to follow a certain way of conducting themselves. So what happens is, they kind of start believing that we are supposed to behave like this. So many times you must have seen that many men and women are in abusive relationships. So the woman never comes out and speaks about it, because somehow she believes that this is very normal. So they say that qualities they believe to be feminine, like passive, naive, sexually inexperienced, soft, flirtatious, graceful, nurturing, and accepting. So this is again from the internet. And of course, the hyper-masculinity also they talk about, where many men are forced to believe that they should always be aggressive. That is why, there are many instances of wife beating and all that. Why? Because not that they want to, they're not bad people, but somehow the society has made them believe that you have to be in control by keeping the women in, under your supervision. So when the children are young, boys and girls, we need to keep reiterating this, not through speech. We cannot keep telling them that you should not do this, you should not do this. We have to do it ourselves, so that we are teaching them, and children love to learn by imitation. So we should not encourage any child who comes. Sometimes at homes, we do not have control of how the child is brought up in the home. But as teachers in the school, when we recognize that a child, whether boy or girl, is having these preconceived notions in the head, we have to put in effort to bring about a change in this. This is the kind of service we have to do as teachers to the community for the well-being of the world. And there is something called reverse bias also. Like, for example, in our house, we have two sons. Now, in the pursuit to ensure that they learn everything that the girl does also, in some homes, what we do is we kind of force them to do things to such an extent that, they are sometimes bullied also, because they are forced to think that this is what is expected of us. So there is something called as reverse bias also, where we as parents and as teachers get over enthusiastic, either in promoting this feminine qualities in girls, masculine qualities in boys, and sometimes reverse. In boys, we want to promote feminine qualities, and in girls, we want to promote masculine qualities. So my take on this is that there is no need to push any kind of behavior on anyone, be it a boy or a girl or any other individual. Just let it be. You can make out as an adult what they like to do, what they don't like to do. Just encourage them and make them a complete individual by telling them, like, for example, if there is a daughter who does not like to go to do her work, we have to tell her that, you need to learn this because you have to be independent. You have to learn how to drive a vehicle. On the other hand, a son, we need to make the sons understand that you need to learn how to clean the table after we eat. So what we can do is make them do everything around the house by doing it ourselves. As husband and wife, as parents, if we do it, our children will naturally learn. So what is the way out of this? We always like to ask, then what is the solution for this? Well, there is no solution. We all know that parenting and being a teacher does not run on formulas. Nobody has ever found out, and nobody ever will, because we are handling children who are so beautiful, who are so diverse in their natures. They are so different. The children of the same mother, they are so different. So parenting cannot happen, with somebody that somebody is doing. They have already found out some, sure short way of doing it. It doesn't work like that. We can only look around. We can read up a lot of things. We can learn from our mistakes. We can learn from somebody else's mistakes. What should not stop is evolving as parents and as teachers. We should always be open to learning. Suppose we are doing something and somebody tells us, that there's a better way of doing this. We should be open to try it out instead of saying that, no, this is how I was raised and this is how I'm going to raise my children. So this is something, this closed mindset is not going to help us rise above gender bias. So my suggestions are, of course, that whether you have sons or you have daughters, whether you're teaching boys or you're teaching girls, please let them choose their own colors, their own chores, and their own challenges. Do not tell them that you're a girl and you cannot do this. You're a boy, you're not supposed to do this. Don't do this. Let them choose what they want to do. And it is absolutely okay for boys also to be sensitive, to be afraid of things, to be loving individuals, and you should never make them feel guilty if they want to stay at home. I in fact have a friend of mine whose son, he told when they were looking for alliances, he told, I don't mind getting a wife who would love to go out to work, and I would love to stay at home and take care of the home and the children. For many years, unfortunately, he did not get a girl because they really thought, what kind of a man is he? He wants to stay at home. But then thankfully, he found an ambitious girl, and they are having a beautiful marriage and beautiful children also. And of course, it's okay for the girls to be strong, independent, and competent also, which are generally assigned to men. If you are strong as a person, then they say that is very unfeminine, right? So at home, what can we do at home? We have to be role models of gender sensitivity. So as husband and wife, we have to assign roles to ourselves also in a very judicious and fair manner. Like today, suppose I have something important to do, there's nothing wrong for my husband to say, I'll take care of dinner. Or suppose the man of the house is busy with something, there's nothing wrong in the woman to say, you don't worry, I'll take care of all the bills to be paid. So if we are balancing the way we conduct ourselves, the way we divide the work, in many homes, we like to say, you do 50%, I do 50%. In my opinion, that is also very unhealthy. At times, you can let the daughter relax and tell the son that today you are going to do the job completely. And vice versa also. Some days the son can rest and the daughter can take over. So we have to be role models of this kind of behavior. And it's always good to do the chores in rotation also. However, it is convenient, you have to allot the chores. And remember, children learn best through imitation, not through lectures. Unless and until we are practicing it, the children are not going to be sensitive about genders, and they are not going to grow up with this holistic, balanced approach to genders. So this is how an ideal home should be, where the man, woman, son, daughter, whoever is there in the family all of us are happy who we are. There's nothing wrong. Like for example, whenever I'm very tired, I like to cook an elaborate meal. There's nothing wrong, right? So there are many men who like to do that. There are many women who like to go for a workout if they want to relax. So what I'm saying is, whether they are sons, whether they are daughters, there is no wrong and right way of raising them, especially when you're talking about their genders. Do not make them conscious that you are a boy, that's why you're supposed to do this. You are a girl, that's why you're supposed to do this. Don't do this, you're a girl. Don't do this, you're a boy. Do not even think about it, because if these thoughts are there at some point in time without us knowing, it comes in our speech. So my request to all of you today is, let the children be they are. The sex that they've been assigned to, male or female, they are not to blame. They have no role to play. So once they've come as males or females, let them be comfortable in that, let them be happy in it, and let them choose what they want to do as a boy, let them do what they want to do as a girl. If it gives them happiness to do something, let them do it. Do not thrust your preconceived notions on them. I would like to end this presentation with a quote, which I have actually written an article which is going to be published in another week or so. Incidentally, it is also called "It Begins Here, Tackling Gender Bias at Home." So this is the quote that I have said at the end of my article, which says, "Let us not put blinders on ourselves and the children and make them choose between just blue and pink. After all, when mixed together, these two colors yield purple, which stands for calm stability of blue, the fierce energy of red, royalty, power, ambition, creativity, wisdom, dignity, peace, and pride, all that every child truly deserves." So, I come to the end of my presentation. I would love to hear from you what you think of what I said. What is your opinion on what I said? Do you agree with what I said? Do you disagree with what I am saying? Because it is always good to have divergent thoughts. It is, this difference of opinion that we have to take in our stride and learn from each other. So before I take on any question and answers, I would like to take a moment to express my heartfelt gratitude to Palikutam Global Connect 5 for not only inviting me to be the presenter today, but to think of such beautiful progressive topics which can benefit all of us. So in a way, they are actually encouraging us to think about these sensitive things, because these are the little things that can bring about big changes. So little steps with big impacts. So thank you so much, Palikutam Connect 5, and thank you, Nicey, for coordinating with me, being so patient with me always. It has been a pleasure, and I would like to thank all the participants. I am seeing a magical number of 100 in participants right now. So thank you all so much for joining us this evening, spending an hour with us and interacting with us on this topic. Thank you once again. So Nicey, if there are any questions, I could take them.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Anupama ma'am. This was a very informative session. Let's now move on to interactive session, and now it's open for participants to ask questions. We actually have one question from Dr. Varghese Pantalukaran. This question goes, is it not important that we give gender identity to children as a society? Will gender confusion create more problems, and how to bring a healthy balance?
Firstly, thank you so much for that wonderful question. Like I already told you, gender identity is already assigned to us. So we are nobody to give this identity, and that is the crux of my presentation today, that as adults, we need not give anybody any identity, because children are born as males or females or any other gender, right? So what I would like to convey is that let the child choose the kind of the way of life he or she wants to lead, the kind of clothes they want to wear. Many times, women are always expected to wear, dresses, and if they are in trousers, not so much accepted, especially for formal occasions, we are expected to dress up in a certain way. That is in keeping with the kind of community we belong to, right? So what I would like to say is there's nothing wrong in assigning genders. And in fact, we are the ones who create confusion in the mind of the child by telling that you're supposed to do something. So if at all we want to mitigate this confusion, we have to take a step back. We have to be there to help the child come up with this identity for himself or herself. We can always be there to help the child, but what I believe is that it is not healthy to push the child to believe that because you belong to this gender, you are supposed to behave in a certain manner. So my talk is not about assigning genders. It is about us assigning roles to people based on genders, which I feel is not very healthy. Since we are talking about 21st century, I think it is better to allow the children of today decide on how they would like to behave, how they would like to dress up, and not force them to conform to something that are called as stereotypes. I hope my answer was convincing.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for that. Are there any more questions?
No questions, Nancy. Either I was very convincing or I was not at all convincing.
No,
Either one of the two.
It was really informative, and we have got plenty of comments pouring in. Okay, ma'am, excuse me. There's one more question.
Yes.
Yeah, there's one question coming up. Yeah, okay, we have a question here. Why can't women wear men's clothes? That's obvious that men can't, so that's how gender inequality begins.
Is that question? Yeah. Why can't women wear men's clothes, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I didn't understand the second part of the question, but then, yeah, a very, very relevant question, that why shouldn't women or men dress up in a certain manner? That is because we have already decided that men should dress up like this and women should dress up like this. So that is the reason why we kind of do not take it very well when we see people who cross-dress. That is called as cross-dressing. When people dress up like this, they attract attention, right? Like Nicey already mentioned, there's nothing wrong in the whatever we want to do, because the human brain is a human brain, right? So all these notions are put into the head of the child by the adults, by the society, by the norms of the society that we live in. So you're absolutely right. There's nothing wrong in it. But by insisting on a certain way of dressing up, we are breeding inequality amongst the genders.
Okay, thank you, ma'am, for that. We have one more question here. How can we bring gender equality in a joint family? It's really hard to convince elders.
Yeah, beautiful question, I would say. And, it is a myth that in joint families we cannot do it. Actually, joint families are the best place to inculcate values into children, right? Many times we think that old people are very rigid and they have this stereotypical way of thinking. But what I believe, I had a grandmother also. I was very close to my maternal grandmother. Although they have grown up with a certain thought process, you can change their thought process with a little bit of talking to them. When you sit down and you tell them, they are the most accommodating. I remember my grandmother always encouraging my brothers to help their wife, saying that she also goes out to work just like you. So why is it that she only has to come and cook? By the time she comes, at least you can keep the dal ready, you can keep the rice ready, right? So she can come and do the rest of it. So why is it necessary that she only has to come and do? So the old people may seem to be very rigid, but believe me, try it out in your own homes. When you talk to them, when you reason it out with them, when you tell them that this is what you're going through, they are the most understanding and accommodating people, and they can be beautiful role models for gender equality at home. So please try it, because in fact the problem is in nuclear families, where we don't have old people to give us values. But in homes where we are blessed to have old people, I think the children will learn well. This is my opinion.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for that. Are there any more questions? Ma'am, there's one more question here. Tips on how we can teach young minds that both the genders are equal.
Okay, so thank you for that question. The answer to that is, the way to teach is not to teach. So many times we are very enthusiastic by teaching children. So the children, when they are born, they do not come with any kind of preconceived notions. It is we who put in expectations, this preconceived expectations are put into their head. This is how you're supposed to do it. This is how you're supposed to do it. So if we just stay away from this kind of teaching, I think the children will naturally learn that both the genders are equal. So, and of course, like I told you before, we can be role models of not being biased towards any gender. I just want to quickly give an example that during one of the PT periods, we have something called a stay back. One of our senior girls came to complain to me. She said, ma'am, I want to complain about something. What is it? The teacher is saying that after our practice, we have to change back from our shorts to skirt, and then only we can get into the bus and go home. Then when I called the teacher and asked, did you actually say that? She said, yes. Then I asked my student, why are you upset about it? She's saying, ma'am, she's not asking the boys to change. Why should the girls change? Then when I asked the teacher said, ma'am, it's not safe to send girls like this on the bus, right? That's why I just want them to change from shorts to skirt. Then I told her, this is very bad. Are you telling my girls that if they wear shorts, they're not safe? Well, this is a teacher who does some kind of damage like this with good intentions. I'm not saying her intentions were bad, but how she was conveying it was not right. So, then I told that either the boys and girls will change or none of them will change. All of them will go home as they are. So as teachers, we need to understand that many times it is better not to teach. That is when the children will grow organically or grow naturally to respect both the genders. If they're not, it is because of something that they have seen either in their home or their school. So we have to be very conscious as supervising adults whether there is gender bias which is being practiced around the child. So the best way to teach children is to be role models.
Thank you, ma'am, for that. We have one more question now. Can you please throw some light on gender fluidity? How do we make students sensitive to having a different sexual orientation?
Well, different sexual orientation has been there from times immemorial. If you read mythology, if you read history, we do learn about this gender which is neither male nor female, right? We have in history as well as religious texts also have characters like that. So it has always been there. The issue is us accepting and also giving them their due position in the society. So first and foremost, we must be open to have conversations with children when they are curious, because these are things which they come to know because of the advent of media in their lives. Information is no more classified for them. It is readily available, especially now since they are going through online classes. They just have to click one word and they get a whole lot of information. So it's always good as adults to have these open conversations so that children get information from an authentic source. So we have to sit them down, and to an extent to which they can understand. See, you cannot talk to a 6-year-old in the same way that you talk to a 16-year-old. So as a teacher, we have to decide the extent to which we can simplify things to make it age appropriate. But we should never tell a child who comes to us with a question that you're too young to understand. Nobody is too young to understand if they've asked a question about it. So please respect the curiosity of the child and sit the child down and have a very, very honest conversation to the level to which the child should know. Age appropriate information should be given, instead of just shutting off the child and saying that not now, you're so young, who told you this, you are not supposed to talk all this. Then the child is already curious, the child will go to some other source for information. So please make it a habit to satiate this curiosity of the child and have an open conversation so that children also understand the realities of life at appropriate ages.
Thank you, ma'am, for that. We have one more question here. How will we convince our learners to understand that there are some male educators who behave like female teachers when in fact they must be role models?
Yeah, so thank you for that question. You are absolutely right. We are very judgmental when we come to behavior of people. And that is the reason why, many times children make fun of people who have effeminate characters, of female teachers who have male-like characters. So this is very common because the children are also victims of such bullying. That is the reason why we all know that this kind of bullying happens only if the children have been bullied themselves. So somewhere we have to find the root cause of why this kind of ridicule is happening. And the school should have a culture where we do not ridicule each other. This takes a lot of effort, but it is possible. So if we have a very respectful culture in the school, if we have an environment where we do not make fun of each other, if we do not judge people because of the way they look or the way they behave, I am sure children will not indulge in this kind of behavior. In some cases, if you do find children who are behaving like this, then the child needs not reprimanding, but needs a lot of counseling. So we should not punish the child, scold the child, call the parents and say, this is what your child is doing. No, the child needs to be sat down, counseled, and we have to make the child realize that we have to be caring towards each other. We have to be respectful towards each other. So this will nurture the child who will not be judgmental. And if the child receives this kind of treatment from others, I'm very sure the child will not do this to others. So this is like a two-way road where you do good, you get good back. So once the child knows that this does not happen in this classroom, this does not happen in our school, the child will not behave like this. And if we do have, we can always talk to the child. The school counselor can talk to the whole class instead of talking to the child. It's even better if you have a conversation with the entire class on how we should not make fun of others based on how they look or how they behave.
Thank you, ma'am, for that. We have one more question. Why are women appreciated when they are man-like? And why are men insulted when they are women-like?
Oh, wow. Such a profound question. They are absolutely right, whoever has asked this question. Whenever women achieve something that not many women do, it's always published in the newspapers. right? So whenever their men do something, it is not right. That is mainly because of the kind of society we live in. We all know that in many cultures, it is the females who are oppressed. It is the females who have to fight for opportunities. It is the females who have to fight for basic amenities, right? So that is the reason why women are glorified, women are appreciated, that in spite of the society not encouraging them, in spite of the family not encouraging them, women have achieved so much. So this is about praising the women, but about the men, I completely agree with you that men also require a fair share of appreciation for all that they do. We rarely read about a man who took care of his children in the absence of his wife, right? So I think we need to do it more often. And so happy that as progressive educators, you thought of it. Let us be those people who give men appreciation when they deserve it.
Thank you, ma'am, for that answer. And now we have another question. Many times, raising gender issues is considered an act of feminism. Please share your views on that.
Yeah, like I told you in the previous question, many women who fight for rights are not encouraged in the society. That is again because of stereotypical mindsets where they feel that if women are given too many privileges, they will be out of control, right? So this is again something that some societies think, some people think, but at the same time, let us not be very pessimistic and negative. We are very happy. In fact, times are changing now. And, all of us, I'm sure, are backed by supportive families, supportive men, supportive mothers-in-law, supportive fathers-in-law, supportive children. So, let us not think that the entire world is bad. There is a lot of good in this world also. So let us, look at these positive things and put in our effort to, many times we see that we are getting what we can, but maybe our neighbor is not getting what he or she deserves. So, being empowered, I think we can do something so that we can help the community around us also. And yes, women who, fight for rights are called by different names. Let us not be discouraged by that. We cannot stop the world from speaking about us, but we can encourage ourselves to do what is right for the society.
Yeah, that's right, ma'am. Now we have one more question now. Why, when a woman achieves success, a man could not bear or appreciate it with full heart?
No, I don't agree to that at all, because, even the little achievements that I have done in my life, many in my life, my father, my husband, my sons, our members, board of management, they are all men and they have always encouraged me. So I do not believe, maybe in general, we hear of such things, but this is not a common occurrence. It is not true that all men are jealous of women's success. If it was like that, I don't think all of us would be sitting here having this conversation. So like I said, let us not make it generic. There may be specific cases where we do have men not, encouraging women, but let us also understand that there are very many women who stop men from achieving, success also due to many things. So let us be fair to the male gender also, and let us take them with us, because the world cannot run with only successful women. We need men, we need women, men, women. We need everyone. Then only life is a complete whole.
Thank you, ma'am, for that answer. Are there any more questions? Yeah, so I think there are no more questions here. So the male and the female differ in certain body characteristics, but when it comes to brain, there's no such difference, according to neuroscientists. A recent study by Rosalind Franklin University of Medicine and Science shows that there is no such thing as a male brain and a female brain. The difference is only in the size, but not in gender. Misconceptions about gender can have a wide impact on how we treat boys and girls. We are thankful to Ms. Anupama ma'am for creating awareness about gender sensitivity and hope all stakeholders will take this important message forward in their networks too. I also thank the participants for staying with us in this evening. If you have any more questions, you can always write to editor@rajagirimedia.com. Thank you everyone once again. Have a nice evening.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nicey, for this session.